Hey, Steph.
Hello,
And hello to all of our listeners.
Hello to all of our listeners. It's 2022.
2022, and Steph's in for our second episode on the Beyond Condition podcast. So really good episode lined up today. And last week we spoke about basically performance enhancing drugs within our industry, which is a lot bigger than some people expect. And what we both said would be really nice to basically touch base with the natural side of the sport as well, because you know there's such a big but also small divide in different aspects of that. So everyone's prepping, everyone's off season. You know, as a bodybuilder, you go through the phases in the same way, but then you've got the assisted side and the natural side. So we really want to basically give an informative session for people that are looking at considering going into the sport, or maybe already in the sport and don't know whether to continue as a natural athlete, whether they want to look at steroid use, and you know, air any questions that people might have in regards to the natural side of our sport.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it amazes me even to now how many people still don't know about natural bodybuilding and that it's an option for them. And a big part of why I decided to set up the WNBF, the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation UK, with Andrew, was to solidify and raise more awareness of natural bodybuilding and how that, you know, you can really, through hard work, consistency, great nutrition, good application to training, achieve phenomenal results, and in a really healthy way, in a way that you can learn a lot about your physique and you can really push it to its natural potential, which I think is, well, I say natural potential to its potential generally, you know, and there's a lot of kind of misinformation out there that to be a bodybuilder, you have to take assistance. And yes, you know, that's a part of the sport, but it doesn't have to be for a lot of people. And if they're aware of the choices that they have, and they're aware that there is phenomenal stages in the UK, and we have some of the best natural bodybuilders in the world, actually, you know, we're renowned for really breeding the top level natural bodybuilders, shall I say. We've got insane platforms to do that on, and some fantastic stages to really showcase that. And if it's somebody, particularly for somebody who maybe is starting out, it's a wonderful level playing field. And I know a lot of natural bodybuilders who started and have been completely hooked and have been lifetime, you know, pursuit of natural bodybuilding and getting their body to their highest level of natural potential. So it's exciting.
I definitely, where you just mentioned there, would sort of get across to the listeners that there is a kudos in trying to get to your natural potential. You know, it's very hard to know where that is sometimes, but giving it a good shot. And then if you were going to consider, you know, going assisted, that you've actually given it a shot natural to see what you look like. You hear a lot of, you know, horror stories where people dive straight into steroid use and they don't know anything about it. They've never prepped before. And then suddenly they're taking, you know, very high doses of whatever it may be. And they haven't even explored doing a prep as a natural athlete first. So there's definitely something there as well. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, there is. And I think it's like anything, you know, if there's a magic potion for the most perfect skin in the world, you know, people will probably jump to that. And it's kind of, I mean, it's a vague correlation, I guess, but it's the sort of notion that if you can quickly get massive and quickly get results and quickly be, you know, a potential winner with a pro card, etc., you know, people take that route and take that risk without standing and contemplating the health risks or potential long-term problems that may arise, or if you're a female, how that may affect your ability to conceive or may impact your hormones for lifetime to come. So it's not, you know, I've never been somebody that judges anyone unless given real cause to, unless I've been hurt myself. But I do feel sad that a lot of people feel that that's the only way that they can achieve phenomenal results. And it's my job, I guess, as someone who's come through the ranks, to feed back to people about why they should consider doing this a different way. And I have these conversations in the gym all the time. You know, I've got athletes who have said, like, have you never been curious? Or, you know, I've got these thoughts in my head. Can I talk to you about it? And I think just that, talking about it and getting the like thoughts in your head out in communication and discussing these things will help you come to your own decisions on what you want to do with your body, what risks you're willing to put it into, and what's important to you as well. You know, there's such a small percent of people who bodybuild that actually make it to those top levels of, you know, winning, champions, pros, whatever you want to call it that. So for somebody who's just starting and hasn't had many years under their belt, is it really a realistic thing for you at this point in time? Yeah. I would argue not, you know, but
because also there's the thoughts along the lines of, you know, you might not even get through a prep if you've never done something like a bodybuilding prep, and you know, you go into it and you suddenly got this list of performance enhancing drugs that you're going to use, and then you get 8 weeks into a prep and you think, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Where are you going to find yourself suddenly? It's like, you know, do you just stop taking them? What's going to happen to your body? What's going to happen to your mind? You know, what is the bigger picture? And I think this is across the board with bodybuilding preps anyway. What are you trying to achieve? Are you just going to compete to see what it's like? If so, it's probably not even worth, you know, looking at that at all. Just do the prep first, see how you get on. And I'd also say, you know, if you really want to stick to natural, then do compete with natural federations if you can, because for me it doesn't make as much sense to, you know, expose yourself to the competitions that don't have any drugs testing if you want to, say, get a pro card and you're 1,000,000% natural. It would make sense to pursue something like WMBF.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you only have to look at some of the top natural champions, and they could stand on an open stage. And I'll put my money where my mouth is. They'll dominate. You know, that they'll do very, very well, because, you know, people mistake natural for being just, you know, small and not having, I suppose, the same amount of aesthetic potential. I'd actually say that a natural bodybuilder's lines, muscularity, and at the top level, their symmetry, their proportions, their insertions, their conditioning is so clean and crisp, without the look of sometimes what these compounds, etc., can do to some of these physiques. And, you know, you look at these physiques on stage and they stand out because they are just so clean and beautifully put together. And I mean, somebody who's done extremely well over the last 2 years, top level bodybuilder, I'm going to shout him out, Rob Waterhouse here, who also took his IFBB Pro card over the last year, doing insanely well. You look at him on the stage, he might not be the biggest guy there, but his clean lines, his symmetrical proportions, where his muscle bellies are inserted, his conditioning is just standout. And that's a natural competitor. He's been competing naturally for the best part of the last, 10 years. He's well known. Andrew has competed with Rob. Andrew's actually beaten Rob once before. I'm sure you won't mind me putting that out there. But these guys at the top natural level in this country are pretty special, and some of the females as well. You've got the likes of Claire Burton, who took her IFBB Pro card as well. You've got Michelle Lawrence. You've got Yvette Arthur. You've got I'll throw myself in the ring there. Quite a few of us, that have been doing this for a long time, and we can stand there and hold our own on any stage because of the depth of tissue and the conditioning and the level of symmetry that we bring to the sport. So it's something people should realize is absolutely 100% achievable. But you have to understand that in the natural world, we're not going to get that size like that in 1 year flat. It's not the same gig at all. you make the decision because you want to prioritize your health in sport as well, and you go at it from the perspective of hard work and consistency equals results over time, and it does. It 100% does. Yeah.
I mean, there's running back to what I said just there, you know, maybe competing in a natural federation, and if you get that physique that, you know, the people that you've mentioned there, and you compete for a little bit and you think, actually I could hold my own on an assisted stage, well, potentially assisted, you never actually know with the non-tested federations who's going to be assisted and who's not. But if you get that physique and you're thinking, actually, you know, you're looking at all the different federations and you could compete alongside those and potentially still hold your own, then you've got that option to then delve into dominating as a natural athlete in the untested federations as well.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. You know, it's not being a natural bodybuilder and someone who loves, let's just talk about the essence of competition. If you're a competitor at heart, and you love competing, you'll go and compete wherever you want, and have, you know, you can put yourself out there and you'll compete. The beauty of obviously competing for the likes of WNBF, which essentially, again, you know, I think I mentioned this in one of your other podcasts, the WNBF is the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation. It's the, I suppose if you want to compare it, it is the IFBB of the natural sport. It is the pinnacle of our sport. People want to get there. It gives natural bodybuilders the opportunity to compete without the use of performance and image enhancing drugs on a level playing field, and without risks to their health. And they know that everybody on those stages are in the same boat because of the stringent drug testing that they have to go through. So it's there's something nice about that. Now, you know, a lot of people talk about naturals bang the drum about being natural. I'm completely the opposite. You know, I'm not a self-righteous natural. I just believe in natural bodybuilding because that's it's something passionate about. Yeah, and I believe in looking after your health as well. So, you know, it's not that anyone's going around going, you're open and you're natural. It's just a choice. It's something that people want to do, and it's amazing that there's the likes of the WNBF to be able to give these guys a wonderful journey from, you know, UK all the way up to the, you know, the Worlds, which is always in America. But then you've got 45 now, I think it is, affiliates across the world that you can go and compete with. So, you know, tons of countries across Europe. We've literally got federations from the Ukraine, Finland, Germany, you name it, all the way through to Japan, you know, Australia, New Zealand, all these places. And we all discuss and talk, and we take athletes to different places. And it's just a huge, amazing international community. And people don't realize how big the natural bodybuilding side of the sport actually is and what opportunities are available to them. So I suppose that's where I come in with leading a federation to say, right, look at what we can give you. Phenomenal, you know, stages in the UK, the same culture and, you know, kind of entertainment experience, as the likes of your PCAs or your whatever else shows. Come and really enjoy the experience, but you've also got an insane journey ahead of you as well.
Yeah, because I definitely, from my point of view, when I first started out, so probably 7 years ago now, I definitely naively went into the sport not thinking that the bikini category, my category, that assistance would even be a thing. So I went into, you know, UK BFF because there was, like we've mentioned before on pods, there was like 3 federations when I started out, and then there was the independent shows and things like that. So for me, UK BFF was like the only one that was an option. I didn't even know that there was natural federations around as a newbie. And so I did my first 3 seasons, I didn't really understand what it even was, you know, assistance or tested, non-tested. I just thought everyone was on the same playing field. And then as you get into the sport, and now everything is so out in the open, isn't it? Like
it is,
you know, you've got to be living, you know, in a cave to not understand the potential of the assisted route within our sport now. It's mental.
It is. And I mean, there's been some pretty shocking you know, news around the globe of athletes who have passed away this last year. Too many, far too many.
Crazy.
And it's really kind of shook, I think, people's understanding here again. It's like, look, this is not, that these things are not it's not like you're putting something into your body here that's a tested substance for this particular use. Some of these things are, you know, for treatments, for cancer treatments, for diseases that, you know, have come from, well, all manner of things. I won't go into, I don't know enough about it, but these things are not to be played and messed with, and people are taking those risks. And unfortunately, this is what we're starting to see. Well, it's always been there, but we're really starting to see a volume that is just becoming uncomfortable for people, I think.
Yeah, it was massively insightful to get Joe on the pod last week, because the way he looks at PEDs is from a very educated point of view. And I'm sure you won't mind me saying that he's quite a geek with it. Like, he's really, really, you know, into it. He researches everything. The protocols he works with clients with, it's all, you know, it's backed up by research, and that's his field, you know, he's an expert in that field. And if anyone is looking at things like that, I'd always say, you know, go down a route of actually, if you're going to go assisted, get the right information, you know, get a coach behind you that's going to help you. Don't just, you know, try and buy something down your local gym and hope for the best. It's crazy what, you know, the stories that you hear, like you're touching on there. It's like, what the hell? And, you know, it's like 21-year-old lads that are suddenly on such a list of, you know, performance enhancing drugs. I always think, you know, when they're 40, they've done it for 20 years. Where are they going to be? Where do they take it? Do they keep taking more? Like, it's just mental.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, if you look at quite a lot of, you know, studies around these kind of chemicals that they're putting in their body, etc. A lot of the time, what you see is the long-term effects and the damage that it causes later down in life. You know, there's no way in hell anyone's thinking about that if you're, you know, 14, 15 or 16 or however young some of these guys are in the gym, who are just like, I'll screw it, I'll see how things go. But yeah, I mean, I'm always hesitant to kind of go, even to talk about people from, like, they've done their research point of view, because although I'm sure there's a lot of people who have a lot more knowledge in the industry about these things and how to use them, and I'm putting quotation marks up when I say that, but there is no real how to use them. People are experimenting and working it out and going from there. And yeah, okay, they've seen results with X, and then people are sort of saying, like, oh, I'm qualified to give this advice. Nobody technically is qualified to give any of that advice. And I feel there's an ethical responsibility that people need to put on their shoulders in this industry. That is, you know, if you're telling somebody else to take a compound that actually legitimately you don't know anything really about and how that's going to affect that person, you might have an idea, but you're not educated in it. So there is, I think this word educate's quite sensitive with this topic, because it, you know, I think there's a level of knowledge, yes, that gives people potentially more ability to openly discuss these topics.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's a lack of education as to why, you know, these things are going very, very wrong in a lot of cases. So
when people just dive into it and they just, you know, that it's a scary subject, isn't it? And like you say, it's very borderline as to how you can address it.
It's so hard.
There's no, like we've said as well, there's no right or wrong. You know, I always remember seeing the first female bodybuilder when I went to a show, and I just thought, I looked at her and I thought, you look incredible in regards to how much muscle mass there was. And this was when I didn't really understand steroid use and things like this. But from then, I've always thought, if you want to give your life to a sport and you risk potentially not having children, X, Y, and Z, that's what you want to do. Like you said earlier, you know, everyone's entitled to their own decision, but it's just trying to, I guess, when I spoke to Joe last week, if you're going to go down that route, try and do it in the safest way possible.
Yes, and I think that's the phrase I would definitely use there. And, you know, there are, of course, going to be people more able to discuss these things than others. But it's a big topic. And I think one of the other things that, another reason why, of course, I've gone down this route with the federation, and the reason why, you know, I work with natural athletes, I am one, is the lack of regulation in the industry. And I mean that from all points. There's a lack of regulation in the bodybuilding area of fitness, because we don't have regulation around coaching. We don't have regulation around, you know, certain things like this in terms of, like, you know,
it's literally like free for all.
And should there be? I think as time moves forward, the more information we're getting, the more we're learning, the more people are doing their homework in what they want to do, why they want to do it. And I think people are taking more ownership over their bodies and their health now, more than they've ever done before. And so, although these things are part of the bodybuilding world on the open side of the sport, I do think there's more education out there now for people to make informed decisions. And I hope that as we kind of progress, more regulatory sort of stuff will come in, and maybe a body will transpire where we can kind of monitor sort of things like this, so that there is signs, like even federations, for example, federations take some responsibility to spot an athlete potentially on stage who's not of good health, good health, or maybe they've seen it before they get to stage, and they maybe help stop some of the potential negative effects that could happen physiologically and psychologically within the athletes that might come and compete. I think there is a responsibility federations need to take as well.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I absolutely love that. I've spoken to my friend Matt about this. He's launching into doing more shows next year on behalf of GPO. They're sort of just coming on the map, and we have these like in-depth conversations. We get so immersed because we're like, you know, post-show in particular, but also on the lead up, you know, depending on what category you are, there's girls out there that are taking loads and loads of gear, and they don't need to for their category. Mm-hmm. And so consequently, they feel like the pressure to do that. They then compete, and they're maybe not going to place where they would if they just, you know, either dumbed it down or not taken anything, and actually come in looking like the criteria guidelines state. And also he was saying, you know, it really upsets him post-show when people just compete and then there's nothing after that. You know, could we as federations, could we as coaches offer more there? And, you know, we've said before previously when we've done sessions that, you know, coaches sometimes drop athletes after they compete, and you think, what do you mean the coach is dropping the athlete? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing until I've got more and more into the industry and got the experience. You know, I thought it was more like the client would be like, oh, I don't need a coach now. But actually it's the coach saying, you haven't done that well, or, you know, what are you doing there? Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, is there not a moral responsibility to be a decent human being and offer some level of support there, you know?
Yeah, well, but I suppose this comes back to the regulatory kind of thing. You know, if coaches were put through specific courses, qualifications, this is something actually we're doing next year with WNBF, as we are doing a coaches course, more so to allow people to really get the full 360 approach around the health and wellness of an athlete during, and post show. You know, then there would be an ethical responsibility after the show. Is the most important part, regardless of the type of athlete that you are, there is a clear understanding, if you're in the coach's realm, that period of time post-show is one of the most challenging times in an athlete's journey.
Yeah.
And it can, if not carefully managed, be a breeding ground for, well, we've talked about this many times on the podcast, poor relationships around food, poor body image, could also be a breeding ground for potential physiological issues if you eat too much. You know, there's so many things as to what could happen around that time, and if you don't have a careful exit strategy from that, you can be left very lost. I've just had a girl come to me this last week, actually, who I've started to work with, who has been off stage for a period of around 3 months, and she's got high levels of anxiety. She doesn't know what to eat. She can't understand how she did it all. She doesn't want to go to the gym because she's self-conscious. She has lost all understanding of routine around food. She's literally hiding away from the world because she doesn't know what to do. And it's awful. And that's her words were, I just literally did the show and my coach disappeared. And that was it, you know. And I mean, I could go down a whole other rabbit hole with that stuff, but there is an obligation for good post care. And I think it is, again, when we come back to what federation should be promoting, yeah, it's not just a stage to showcase the wow factor of the end of prep. It should be about, you know, harnessing all elements of the prep and hoping to give athletes an understanding of how to look after themselves as well. Well, certainly from a natural point of view, that is vital. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's I mean, it can go on so many different tangents as to how people are left after a prep, and, you know, depending on where they're at on their journey, and whether it's their first prep, whether it's their 10th prep, you know, you never, I don't feel, having prepped so many times now, and you can never really prepare for how you're, you know, definitely how you're going to feel after a show, because things crop up, things happen, you know. Every prep, like we've said before, brings a different challenge, a different lesson, maybe multiple lessons, and then after that it's where do you go. And it's quite nice you call it an exit strategy, because actually that's what it is, isn't it? You know,
is, yeah. So your exit out, and if you are, you know, it might be an exit out into an off season, it might be an exit out bodybuilding completely, it might be an exit out to real world. it might be
maintenance for a bit, and then
exactly
at the finals. Say, you know, there's so many different ways to look at it. And also, you know, choosing your federation, like we've touched on today, you know, put some thought into it. I always say to people, have a look on Instagram, look at the different federations, also go to shows, you know, maybe go to a natural show. You know, I was blown away when I judged at the WMBF Supernaturals in 2021. When I looked at the stage at some of the younger athletes, I thought, bloody hell, I mean, it's phenomenal. And this is where exploring your natural potential, I would say, is definitely, you know, I personally would say to anyone, go down that route first if you can. I mean, some people might just go straight into it. It's up to them. But, you know, when I'm seeing some of the natural athletes, I was just like, wow, like what you can do.
I mean,
Luca, that was like 16.
Luca, he was our team champion. Luca, thick muscle, awesome potential. I mean, he just got out there and he was like, boom, I've arrived, you know. And it's just, he's got, you know, that is what I love about natural bodybuilding, though, is when you see young guys like Luca at that age on a natural bodybuilding stage, surrounded by people who are encouraging his natural potential, you know. He's very lucky. He's got that. He's found that early. He will go on to enjoy. And, you know, I often find with natural bodybuilding, you often find it because you've either known someone who's a natural bodybuilder, you're in a gym where natural bodybuilders are training for that particular competition, or somebody talks about it in, you know, like this, and then it perks people's ears up and goes, oh, what's that? I want to go have a look at that. But yeah, I mean, you've got the likes of people like Luca, Robert Brown, who is was a junior. If you look at Rob Brown's structure classically, he just has this crazy X-frame, and then he went and did earlier on in the year, he actually went and threw himself in one of the open show, one of the PCA classic bodybuilding division, and took a third on a stage of about 12 of the guys. You know, they were all 10 times bigger than him. But again, shape and structure wins shows. It's not just all about big, thick, what I kind of almost call like brick muscle. It's not just about muscle, guys. You know, a lot of people talk about this. Like, if you're just a big lump of muscle on stage, lacking any shape, cool, it's impressive. You've got loads of muscle, but you know, the symmetry. When we talk about bodybuilding, people forget there's rounds to this. There's actual judging criteria. There's symmetry round. There is the muscularity conditioning round. Symmetry is vital for bodybuilding, and you want to see that beautiful X-frame, flowing lines, lovely insertions, nice thick lats right down to the lower, you know, lumbar spine, beautiful tight waist, flowing quads, thick hamstring. You want the whole thing
And presentation.
Not just muscle. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think,
you know, the flow of the presentation and how you're coming across. Some of the classic guys, you know, they're standout because it's like they're oozing the passion,
it's beautiful.
They love that category. They've really invested the time into their posing, their routine, and that classic physique. You know, you don't always see it, and when you do, it's like, hell yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly why somebody like Rob, who's a young junior natural bodybuilder, took a third placing on an open PCA stage in classic bodybuilding, because his shape was classic. There's a classic shape. That's the classic shape. And I think that's beautiful, because this is when we're talking about right at the beginning of this, where, you know, if you're a good natural bodybuilder, you can jump on any stage. You can jump on any stage, and people often mistake that and think, oh, it's just small bodybuilding. It's definitely not. And I think there's a lot to be said for the number of people coming up now doing natural shows, and the quality of athletes coming through. I mean, we had Layla Daniel, who was a phenomenal female bodybuilder, take that champion spot at Supernaturals last year. We had Hannah Mitchell take the figure champion. She had wonderful, you know, lovely, neat figure with a petite X frame, bit more size in her body, and she'll start to become even more competitive. Chelsea Doherty and Samantha Burt in the fit body class, tons of muscle, crazy conditioning, good shape, good. You know, super exciting, promising athletes. And another one, Chelsea there, who did PCA earlier in the year, and she took the overall first timers athletic figure champion at PCA. So, you know, there's someone taking a pro win at the Worlds at WNBF and taking an overall champion in the athletic division for a first time in PCA.
Yeah, which is untested.
You know, it is untested. So it is, there's so many examples of that. And I don't think people realize how many, and they don't realize how competitive natural bodybuilders are.
Yeah. And also, you know, with regards to competing as a natural athlete, it'd be probably quite cool for us to touch on. I didn't realize there's so many different banned substances, which you wouldn't even realize as well, like even in some pre-workouts and things.
Oh, lots.
Like when we did the judges training for the WNBF, I wanted to look at the website and all the different things before we did our training, and I'm going down the list. Oh no, it's not ending, and it's like A to Z, isn't it? And there's so many substances on there, which I don't think people would even really maybe realize if they're just coming into the sport.
No, I mean, the WADA banned substances list is there for all sports that are tested. I mean, it applies to Olympic athletes, you know, as well as natural bodybuilding. The list is extensive, and there's kind of two sections to it. There's your in-season banned list and an out-of-season banned list. Certain elements, certain substances that you must not take at all, and some that are banned in season only.
Okay.
So there's tons and tons, but the majority of the supplements you need to be very wary of, particularly in our field, is your pre-workouts, your any stimulants, you know, that might be in any fat burners. I mean, we tend to try and explain to most natural athletes to stay as far away from these things as possible, because even if you're not sure, you know, you've got to really do your due diligence to find that out. But even, you know, certain things, like you've got to think about all of the supplements you're taking and what ingredients are in them, and be very careful. I know that a lot of people kind of turn their eyes, you know, roll their eyes at is orange peel. So orange peel you can find in a lot of pre-workouts, fat burners, any stimulants. So you know, it's little things like that. I mean, it's being really, really mindful of what's allowed and what's not.
Yeah, and you can access that on the websites, can't you? And probably on the WADA.
Yeah, if you go to the WNBF UK onto the tab, I think it's actually, I've got it here, it's called drug testing. Just click on that, and that will talk to you about what our drug testing looks like at the events themselves. It explains exactly kind of what banned substances means, and then it takes you to a link to obviously all of the list of banned substances. You know, clean sport in bodybuilding, in natural bodybuilding, is absolutely paramount. So all of our athletes have to abide by the WADA code, and must not be taking any banned substances or prohibited substances of any kind at any point. And athletes are subject to testing at all of the events as well as random testing if they're at a elite level, you know, any of our pros, etc. So yeah, that's all there for people to look at.
So on top of the drug testing, is there a polygraph as well with WMBF?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So polygraphing is basically an additional mode of testing, really, that you can find mainly at our international events and mainly at our finals events. So once all of our athletes have been selected, or you know, are coming in, as you saw at the Supernatural last year, you know, we have the drug testing going on and we have polygraphy going on, which essentially is just for athletes to go through for another level of protection, so that all athletes on stage know that everyone's been through again a double standard, I guess, of testing.
Yeah, because it's, I guess as well, when I first started out, I used to hear about like polygraphs and stuff, and I thought, oh my god, that's really extreme. Like where do they do that? How does it happen? Like what does that even look like? But now it is so much more exposed. You know, everything with our sport is, you can literally get it, you know, on probably even on Instagram, a lot of the stuff, if you were to search it, and then you can look at different federation guidelines and what have you on the individual websites. But there's you know, I guess in essence what we're saying is, whatever you want to do within this sport, try and do it with an educated guess in your mind, as in education as to what you want to get from the sport. What is your why? What are you coming into bodybuilding for? What are you looking to achieve? You know, there is options for everyone. Yeah,
there really is. And you know, why do I love competing naturally?
That's quite a good question, actually.
I mean, you know, I often talk about this, and it you know, I'm a 35-year-old female now. Oh my god, I did. I was like, what's my most recent birthday? I might want to have children at some point in the near future. You know, I might want to, I like to enjoy feeling fit and healthy, and I like knowing that what I do, I am in full control of at every point in time. I like to know that my hard work that I've achieved over the years has given me the results that I thought I could achieve through hard work. So you know, I guess what I'm saying is I'm a product of consistency and application to the tools I have at my disposal naturally, and I work hard for that and I enjoy it. And something I always think, you know, natural bodybuilders have in common is we love the training. Like, we love the training. We're not interested, a lot of us aren't really that much interested in anything else. We don't like
the nutrition.
we love the training. Love. And you know, and I think I'm sure all bodybuilders love training, of course, but I often talk to my fellow friends in this industry, and competing is a byproduct of loving the training. We don't do it to compete. It's something we do because we enjoy the training. And so it kind of naturally unfolds like that. It's very rare I meet someone that's just like done bodybuilding for a year and then wants to compete. A lot of us in the natural bodybuilding area have been training, and then they go, oh, I might try that over there. You know,
you've already got the fundamentals there.
Yes, and I mean, somebody doesn't have the fundamentals there, and they find natural bodybuilding, which a lot of people come to me at Pro Prep, of course, for, and they say, like, Steff, I really want to do this, I want to do it naturally, I want to try that. I'll say, okay, where are we? What's the frame? We might not compete for 2 years. You know, I've got competitors on my roster that we're working towards 24. We're not working towards now, you know, because naturally we need the time. I want them to get into that mindset of enjoying the cathartic release of training, learn how to train their body, learn how to feed themselves for performance, learn to think like an athlete, because that's a really amazing skill that will transpire across other areas of your life. And then go and do competition and reap the rewards of seeing your body progress and change. And that's the essence of bodybuilding for me, and why I do it, and why I hope a lot of people listening, if you're thinking about it, would consider, right, let's go and see what that's all about over there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, myself, you know, bodybuilding has always been a fascination. And, you know, the first couple of preps I did, just going into then off season and seeing the difference each time I prepped, it just got me wanting more and more and more. What can I look like? What can I look like? And, you know, there is intrigue around the PED route. You know, I'd lie if I wasn't intrigued by that whole different world. And for me, it would always be because I want to see what I could look like. You know, I'm always like, what can I do next? And that's me as a person. And like we've always said, we don't rule anything out, but it's just fascinating what you can do with your body anyway on a natural platform. You know, and then there's the options to go down different routes if you want to as an athlete. But it's important for people to have, you know, the knowledge as to what our sport offers and the different routes you can take, because it doesn't need to be isolated. And that's why we do these podcasts, because we want to offer, you know, there's no judgment here. It's about people having as much education and information as they can to make decisions. You know, it can be a very scary sport. It can be also very exciting. It can be lonely. It can also be very community based. It depends where you know, what route you go down, who your coach is there a community there? What federation do you compete with? Is there a community there? So there's so many different ways you can delve into actually reaping so many rewards from our sport.
100%. And you know, it is an interesting thing, bodybuilding. You know, in generally, it kind of hooks you in, sucks you in, and then when you're in it, if I think back to my younger years, you know, I was, in my early 20s, it would have been my early 20s when I was just starting bodybuilding. 11 years ago. Oh my gosh, 12 years ago. I'll be 12 next year. Was I anywhere near as reflective and internal thinking as I am now? No way. And I think early in my career, it was all about chasing that, you know, chase the muscle, be the bodybuilder. And I think as I've gone through the years, it's been much more about producing a shape I'm really happy with, but not going to the point of extreme, I think, of my mindset in terms of even my training intensity, all of that, because I want to do this because it's something I love, not to do it to push myself into a place of discomfort in my mind or in my body. And I think you can get sucked into bodybuilding, and it can be quite, what's the word?
I guess pressurizing in a certain.
Pressurizing, like your expectations on yourself, the expectations you feel that others put on you. If you start to do the shows, and then you start to think of yourself like as body parts put together rather than as a human being, you kind of start to think of yourself as like, I've got to get better at this, got to get better at that, got to get better at this. And sometimes I think you can lose your way a little bit and lose the fact that you are, you know, just doing this because you love health and fitness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's all about that, finding your why and what your goals are from.
You're back to that. You're back to that. Absolutely. Yeah. And this is another reason why, you know, being surrounded by a lot of friends and people in the natural bodybuilding world that I've been in for such a long time. So, you know, I've found the people that have really helped support me through this journey. And I've where I am now, and being able to give people a platform to actually compete on, I'm almost harnessing all the good things I've loved about natural bodybuilding, all shows that I've done, and want to almost level that up times 10, level it up times 10, and give people an atmosphere, an environment, new opportunities, level playing field, awesome stages, great judging, great drug testing, and led by people who genuinely are super passionate about the sport. I think that's everything I've done has led me to here, and I feel really excited about being able to give that back. And the Supernaturals, of course, last year was the standard of athletes that came through that event. You know, 100 athletes, on first WNBF UK stage, taking a team of 22 athletes to the world finals in Las Vegas. Next year it's Los Angeles. I hope you're all listening. Get yourself to Los Angeles. Next year we're offering 2 shows for 22. Sorry, this year we're offering 2 shows for 22. So we've got the first timers novice event, where anybody who's not placed top 5 in a competition ever before, and anyone who's a complete first timer, can come and do the first timers novice on the 17th of July. And then the open supernaturals, so this is a show open to everyone, and this show is open to everyone, so that's on the 9th of October, is the WNBF UK supernaturals, which is going to be just a level up from last year, so it's very exciting.
And now, you know, people having that knowledge, they can go and compete in a natural federation, see what it's like, you know, see what it's like being with other athletes that are on the exact same, you know, I guess, place where you are. You've never had any assistance, you're on a level playing field, as it were, and you can see where you fare, and, you know, see what it's like, see if that motivates you to go into an off-season and compete again if you don't potentially get a podium finish. You know, there's lots of different things that you can gain from actually going down this route and seeing what happens, you know.
100%, yeah. And I always talk to people about this all the time. So people have questions about natural bodybuilding, they've got questions about WNBF UK, drop me a note over on my Instagram, or fire us an email through the website, because there's tons of great information on there as well.
Yeah. So next week we're going to be speaking, we've got a guest on, Rob Blatty, our fave, which is it's going to be a second one for us. We've done a previous pod with him in 2021 and he is awesome. It was really good to launch the podcast, the official Beyond Condition podcast, with going through PED use for the first one, and then the second one going into the natural. And next week we're going to start talking about what it is to set you up, you know, for a prep, what you need mindset wise, and all of those tools that, so for those of you that don't know, Rob's a performance mindset coach, and he is phenomenal, and he's in our field. He also trains, and, you know, he's got that athlete mindset himself. So I think it'd be a really good one for people to start really sort of getting their head around going into a prep, choosing their show and attacking that for 2022.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
I love rambling with Rob.
He's hilarious, so it'll be a good one. I'm looking forward to it.
So thank you to all the listeners for checking in. So if you want to reach out to me on my Instagram, it's Sarah Parker _BB.
Yep, and over on mine, Steff Noble Figure Pro, or you can catch me on the coaching page, which is Pro Prep Coaching. And I'll also just put in the WNBF_UK page, which if anyone wants information on all shows, everything to do with natural bodybuilding, head on over there and get yourself stuck in.
Yes, there's big things happening in 2022 for WNBF, so really exciting. And there's just, well, the whole world of bodybuilding is exciting for me and you. We just love it, don't we? So yeah, another awesome opportunity to just get more information out there for the listeners.
Absolutely. So yeah, no, good one.
Yeah, and we will check in next week with Mr. Latty.
Awesome, can't wait. I'll look forward to it.
Awesome. Okay, see you later, Sarah.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye, listeners.